So in One Piece chapter 1089, we find out that Kizaru is descending upon Egghead Island and descending on the Straw Hats, and he brought 9 Vice Admirals with him, along with the Gorosei member Saturn, with a total of 20 great warships and over 30,000 Marines. Now, originally, I had thought that this Egghead arc was not necessarily going to result in a long, drawn-out fight. That still could be the case, although there's more evidence for it being that as we progress forward. Because my original thought process was, we're coming off Wano. We usually get a bridge arc like Zoe, like the Reverie, something of that sort, to kind of bridge us without getting into a major battle. And I think that the one that most resembles this arc would be Punk Hazard, where there is an arc in place, there is a villain, but it just didn't seem like it was going to be all that important. Well, now it actually does look like we are going to get fights here. 9 Vice Admirals seems pretty suspicious to me, considering there's 10 members of the Straw Hats plus Lucci, Stussy, and Kaku. Then you got Bonnie there as well. You got various other people. It seems like those 9 Vice Admirals are probably going to get set up in 1v1 fights. Now, of course, Vice Admirals are notoriously pretty weak, obviously, besides the anomalies such as Garp and potentially the Vice Admirals that were considered for the Admiral position, Pink Rabbit and Brown Pig, Saru as well, of course. We don't really know the strength of the others, although they seem to vary. Now, I don't think a Vice Admiral would be able to go up against the likes of Zoro or even Sanji at this point, but at the same time, I don't think Zoro should be able to go up against somebody like Kizaru. I think if anybody was to take on Kizaru here, it has to be Luffy. A lot of people are Admiral haters in the One Piece community, but the truth is they are basically the Yonko of the Marines. I've been seeing a lot of people thinking that it's going to be Saturn that fights Luffy, and I wouldn't have a problem with that, especially if Luffy is to emerge victorious here, where if he just destroys Saturn, I'll be 100% cool with it. Kizaru would have to fight some other people in the crew, potentially maybe Zoro and Sanji together. And I still would not have Kizaru defeated there. I would have Kizaru either win or just fight long enough like he holds out against most of his opponents, like Rayleigh and stuff like that. Because I don't want to see Kizaru defeated here. I don't really think it's his time to be defeated. The only way I'd be okay with Kizaru being defeated is if it was a long, drawn-out, extreme diff fight with Luffy. Like I was mentioning earlier, I don't necessarily think we're in a position for that. Now, something is going to happen in Egghead that's going to shake the world. I think Luffy defeating, putting hands on, or potentially even killing somebody like Saturn would definitely fit that bill. And I could see it being reminiscent to Luffy punching Charlos at Sabaody. It'll be a parallel to that arc. And what better time to parallel that arc than an arc where Kizaru is involved anyway? It's going to have to be something major, and I think it being tied to the Gorosei member makes all the sense. Now, for some reason, there's like a weird narrative that people think the Gorosei members are going to be stronger than the Admirals. I never believed that. The Admirals are stated to be the strongest force within the world government, not just the Navy. People may argue, well, maybe that doesn't include the Gorosei, right? Maybe they didn't want to group themselves in, but I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. And I never considered them to be like major fighters. Obviously, we know that they are mythical zones now, so they're going to have some fighting prowess, but I still would not expect it to be really even that close to the Admirals. And piggybacking on that, we see that Saturn in this chapter says, make sure nobody knows I'm here. So in my opinion, it doesn't really seem like he's intending on fighting. I'm not really sure why he wanted to come. And at this point, I'm just thinking that he wanted to come to ensure this was going to be handled swiftly, to ensure it was taken care of correctly. Maybe he thinks that his presence is going to serve as a deterrent to Marine failure here, where they're like, oh no, this is serious. Saturn's here, like we have to show out. And I've always just viewed the Gorosei as more of an authoritative position as opposed to a powerful position. I don't think they have their political power because of their strength. I think they have their political power because of their bloodline and of course their ties to Eam, where Eam will probably be their powerhouse. Obviously, I think we all can agree with that. But I don't think the Gorosei themselves will individually be stronger than any of the Admirals. Now, just because Saturn isn't intending on fighting doesn't mean I think he won't fight. I think that 100% Luffy and Saturn will have a face-to-face at some point, and whether Saturn ends up getting a shot off or not, I think Luffy's putting hands on that man. Now, with that being said, what do I think would happen here? Kizaru is pulling up in a very nonchalant manner. Once again, eating his ramen, looking like a beast. Even having to come to terms with he might have to put down his own nephew and Sentomaro if he's going to continue to oppose the world government. Where it's like he has such a close bond with Vegapunk and Sentomaru, but he says himself, no one can protect you guys from your own choice to research the Void Century. I'm just a cog in the machine at the end of the day, which is true. Kizaru's just a guy working the job. job. He does the bare minimum to not get fired and to keep collecting the check. So I don't know how serious he wants to take things. Obviously, he's already made mention that there's going to be a net loss for everything they break on the island. So I don't really know if he's going to whip out his awakening here. As we know, all the admirals should have a Logia awakening. Basically what was implied through Punk Hazard. But Oda has been concealing it and keeping it hidden for all this time. I think this would be a great instance to finally show one of them, but that does not seem like it's going to be the case. Now, I would love to see Kizaru and Luffy fight because, like, once again, it would put to bed all the Yonko agenda, and it would just be like, yeah, an Admiral and Yonko face off on equal footing, right? And it would also give him feats that would be better than even Kaido's if, you know, potentially this is a stronger Luffy, if potentially this goes extreme diff, or they stalemate, right? My ideal scenario would always have been Kizaru potentially having to be preoccupied with something, whether that be the rest of the Straw Hats, whether that be Blackbeard pulling up, because we know one of Blackbeard's ships is in the area. So Lafitte and Devon are probably already on the island, but Blackbeard can obviously warp in with Van Auger's fruit. I want him to be preoccupied with something because I think that there does have to be an interaction between Saturn and Luffy. I think that's the reason why this is even occurring. So I wanted Saturn to get bodied by Luffy. He can be the sacrificial lamb, right? And then Kizaru is going to have to retreat to save his life. Like, he's going to have to dip out and pull out of there is what I'm assuming is going to happen. Or potentially the Straw Hats, now what they're mentioning is that Luffy's talking about using York as a shield to escape. So Luffy's mindset is already on escape. So there's a variety of ways this can go, but I don't think it ends with Kizaru just outright defeated. Saturn, that's 100% fine, but Kizaru, you guys got to realize, Kizaru is basically the right-hand man of the strongest crew in the world. The strongest crew in the world is the Navy. When everything's said and done, they are the strongest crew. Akainu is obviously the captain of that crew, and then you have Kizaru, his right-hand man. I do not see Kizaru falling in battle here. I just don't. Don't think it's the time. I think he'll be right there at the side of Akainu when the world government arc takes place. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I don't think Zoro is ready right now to have a one-on-one with Kizaru. I don't think he is. But that doesn't mean I don't think he will be. And I personally would have Zoro be the one to fight Kizaru in the world government arc. They get massively stronger between now and then. I don't know if there's going to be another arc in between, maybe Blackbeard's arc, maybe Cross Guild arc, a variety of other arcs that could potentially come in between these. Because if you don't remember, Luffy wants to get his get back on Kizaru, but Zoro also has means to want get back on Kizaru. Kizaru was kicking him when he was down. That was after Zoro took all that damage, took the pain from Kuma, took the slash through his chest. There's a lot of things going on for Zoro at that time. So we know he wants to get back on Kizaru. I think both of them need to. That's why I would have Luffy and Kizaru scuffle here in Egghead. Not defeat Kizaru, have Luffy get out of there after hurting and dropping Saturn. And then I would have Zoro get his get back and eventually defeat Kizaru in the end game in the world government arc. I think that makes the perfect sense, and that's the way I would want to do it. Obviously, Kizaru's not necessarily a swordsman, and Fuji would probably fit the bill more. But Kizaru's using his light sword, used it against Rayleigh. It was obviously able to contend with the likes of Rayleigh, who is one of the strongest swordsmen in the world, right? Somebody that was probably relative in strength to Roger, Whitebeard, and all those guys. You know, Garp's own words mentions that, you know, he's a legend in the same vein as those guys. He has advanced versions of all these hockey. And Kizaru was going toe-to-toe with a makeshift light sword. So I would love to see Kizaru whip out his sword against Zoro's sword and see how that all culminates, with Zoro being the parallel of the new age Rayleigh, and finally being the one to put him down. So that's the way I would do it. But like I said, now with these 9 Vice Admirals here, it does seem like we are potentially going to be getting 1v1 fights. Like, they're all kind of being shown here like they might get fights. This arc could end up being on a much larger scale than I previously thought. We're just gonna have to wait and see. I'm excited though. I want to see where we go from here. I'm gonna be watching very closely to see how Oda's gonna write this out, because I think it is a dicey matter. What do you guys think is gonna happen? Do you want to see Kizaru defeated here? Do you want to see the other Straw Hats fight him? Who do you want to see Luffy fight? And what do you guys think the Great Egghead incident is? Let me know in the comments below. I know I did not get the chapter review and the spoilers out this week. I was extremely busy, but I will be continuing to do that in the future. So look out for those videos. Make sure you're subscribed. All that. I will definitely be covering it. So my apologies for that. Drop a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. If they question how I get it, I got answers. Like, what she got me tripping like.